Hello, Mr. Randy here. This is part 2 of week 2. For our next assignment, this is probably one of the weirdest assignments of the semester and somewhat difficult. And I've laid it out on purpose just to get you to practice, first of all, creating some different geometry now. We're going to look at the ellipse tool and the polygon tool. And also, there's lots of different kinds of cuts on this part and extrudes that will force us to do some offset from surfaces and up to next or whatever, just to give you some practice on creating the dimensions that you see in the model while doing extrudes. Okay, so it's very intentional, and this is a problem that some students have trouble with. I want you to be very careful with it. I want you to ask for my help in lab on this one if you need it, in order to make these dimensions come in the way they're given. Okay, so have me look at it, have me check it when you're working on it, or ask for help. But this one's kind of tricky, and I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm going to show you most of the features so you kind of see it. Again, once we get rolling here in another week or two, I'll stop drawing these things for you every time, let you figure it out. But these first few weeks, I just want you to get used to the system and used to the program and the options, and so I'm kind of showing you everything. All right, so let's look this thing over for just a minute. I'm going to look at the pictorial view here. You can see we have kind of a C-shaped main base feature here that we're going to start with. That C shape is here and it goes across here. This area up here in the section view is actually that ellipse sticking up, because this is a full section here, even though you're not seeing a cutting plane line up here. So we're going to begin with that C shape, and then we're going to put this ellipse in, and then we'll start adding some features. So let me slide this over. I'm not going to show you the whole picture at once because it's kind of big. That should all be on your screen right now, I hope, except maybe that 22 millimeter dimension. Let's slide this back just a little bit. All right, so let's start a new file, and this is a metric part. I'm going to draw that C-shaped bracket. This is the front view, so we're going to start a front plane, and let's draw a line, and I'm just going to come out roughly, zoom out a little bit, roughly 200 millimeters. I'll come up a little, back, up, over. I'm going to hit my X there if I'm not careful. I'm going to hold the control key down, hold the wheel down, move this a little bit. All right. First off, we have to assume that these two faces are in line, so I'm going to go ahead and deal with that right now. And we'll grab those two lines, make them collinear. And now I'm going to go to the dimension tool. Again, I'm typing that S key. Come down, that's 200. This is 22. It is 120 to the top. And it is 108 to the underside there. So from here to the bottom is 108. And then 12 thick for this edge over here, so we'll pick those two lines. Again, remember, I'm not picking any endpoints here. And make that 12. All right, we're going to extrude that. Feature, extrude, and we're going to go 82 millimeters. Like so. All right, right off the bat, I want to put this ellipse on the top. We're going to sketch it on this top surface up here, and then we're going to extrude it up, of course. So I'm going to click on the top surface, start a sketch. We're going to go normal 2. Again, you're going to want to type a 9 on the number pad in lab. And then we're going to start with this construction line right down the middle of the part, attached to the midpoints, because I don't have a dimension here to the middle of the part. So center line, make sure you grab that midpoint, take it across, grab that midpoint. So let's look at the ellipse tool. It's right up here, ellipse, and I don't have a placement dimension from left to right again. This is not the right way to dimension this. I've done this on purpose just to get you to work with geometry instead of using dimensions. Down the road, the drawings will better resemble the way it should be done. So we're going to attach that midpoint. I'm going to drag out, and I'm just going to drop it out here out of the way on purpose. And then move my mouse this way. I'm dragging again. So click and drag if nothing happens a second time to establish, in this case, the minor diameter of that ellipse. All right, you notice when you put the ellipse in, it gives us 4 points. These little stars or asterisks are actually points, and lots of different commands give us points when we work in SolidWorks, and ellipse is one of them. So we have to orient this ellipse, and you can see I can drag that point and then the ellipse is free floating. Couple choices here. I could probably coincident relate these, or a more common thing to do with ellipses when we want them to be perfectly oriented horizontal or vertical is just to pick those 2 points and make them horizontal. And that should lock it in space. I don't need to do anything with these ellipse or these points. They can only move up and down now. I can't move them left or right. Now I need to dimension the height and length of that ellipse, and then we can see it's 65 by 180. So we'll just go to a dimension tool, type that S key, and just pick the points. You can't pick the ellipse. You have to pick those definition points. So that's 180. And from point to point this way is 65. All right, that ellipse is fully defined. We can see that down here, fully defined. And let's go into an isometric view here so we can see what's going to happen. And we're going to extrude. And you'll notice if I look at the drawing that rather than give you the height here, which would have been lovely, I've told you that the top of that ellipse is 140 millimeters from the bottom. So it's dimensioned from the bottom surface, so we're going to have to do an offset off the bottom surface. That's how we're going to extrude this, okay? Because that's where it's dimensioned from. So I'm going to say offset from surface. I'm going to pick that bottom surface. Now SolidWorks will automatically want to extrude it towards that surface. All right. What we're going to do here is, first of all, we're going to reverse direction, which is going to show us no preview, and then I'm going to swipe this and I'm going to put in that dimension of 140, and now we see the result there. So that's offset from the bottom surface 140, and make sure your extrusion direction is going up, and we'll hit OK, and that one is done. All right, I have 2 hexagons on this top surface, but if I look in the front view, in the section, notice this hexagon doesn't have a depth cut. It's cut even with this surface right here, this 120 millimeter surface. We've already used that dimension. I can't use it again when I cut this one. I've got to cut it up to this surface. This hexagon cuts through to this edge. So I cannot sketch these together. I can't put them in the same sketch because they have different cut depths. Okay? Can only do them in the same sketch if they're cut the same way. So we're going to start with this one because this one is actually located off of this one. So we've got to begin with the one on the left. So let's do that real quick. I'm going to click on this surface, start a sketch. Let's go normal 2. I'm just going to type 9 on the number pad here. And now that's lined up on center, so I'm going to just draw another construction line from the midpoint over. And then we're going to do a polygon. It's right there. We'll put it right on that end point, like so. The dimension is 30 millimeters across the flats. Across the flats. So I'm going to do a smart dimension. Cross flats of 30 millimeters. It's 67 millimeters over, so I'm going to dimension that line actually. 67. But we're not fully defined yet. I have both dimensions in that I need, but if we grab one of these points and move it, we can see that this polygon can spin. What we have to do, we have to orient it so one of the points is down. The simplest way to do it, a couple ways. One, I could pick this point and this point, make them vertical. I could pick these 2 points, make them horizontal, but the simplest way is just to pick, if we look over here at this ellipse, pick this right or left line. So I'm just going to click on that line and make that line vertical. And that will lock the orientation of the ellipse and turn it black. We are fully defined. All right, so this cut, we need even to this surface out here, right? It's even to the top of that C shape. So we're going to feature extruded cut. We're going to say up to surface, and I'm going to pick this face. And it's going to stop it right there, even with that surface, and we'll hit OK. All right, first ellipse is in. I want to do, or first polygon is in. I'm going to click on this surface, start a sketch. Let's go normal 2. I'm going to do that center line one more time, off the midpoint. We'll now do a hex again, right on that endpoint. Now it's dimension 68 from this one. There is no center point on a hexagon. I know I put one in right there and we can see it in a sketch. But once it's a feature, there's no center for it like there is with a circle. However, we can use the point down here. So we have to be a little more devious, but it works out. So we'll smart dimension. And we're going to go from the center here to that point and come straight down at 68 millimeters. This one is 30 millimeters across points. So we're going to go from point to point, 30 millimeters. And then we've got all the dimensions we need in, but we need to fix the orientation. And you'll notice that the flats are, these 2 flats are horizontal, so I'm going to pick one and make it horizontal, and that should lock it in place. All right, now this one needs to cut through to here, right? And we don't want to say through all again, so let's go features, extruded cut. And if we say through all, that's going to take it all the way to the bottom of the part and put a hole down here we don't want. So we're going to have to try, we'll try up to next. Let's see what that does for us. And that's exactly what we want. So up to next will work. You could also say up to surface and pick the bottom surface here. So let's hit OK. And that should give us the feature we want. There it is. All right. Down here, I don't think I'm going to draw too much more. Down here, you're going to sketch, this is a hexagon again. You can see it there. It's 25 across flats. And it's extruded up 68 off the bottom. So you can do an offset from surface, from the bottom surface up 68. And then this is an ellipse. It's hard to tell by looking at the picture, but you can see over here it's an elliptical feature. It's 18 wide, that's the minor diameter. It's 55, I think that's off the screen here, I'm sorry. It's 55 across that ellipse. Okay, you can see, here's the picture, I'm sorry I had that off the screen. 55 across the ellipse and 18 in the minor diameter. So you can sketch an ellipse down here on this surface, 18 by 55, and then it is extruded up and it's an offset from surface 25 millimeters. So pick that underside surface and set it at 25 millimeters. Okay, and then this is a pretty simple cut, all things considered. It's a hole, and you're going to cut it down. You'll sketch it on this surface, cut it down, blind 18 millimeters. Okay, all right. Let's look at the last problem. Nope, I'm sorry. We've got 2 more to go. I'm going to get this one started. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to start it for you. So let's take a look at this one. When we talk about base features here, this one's a little tricky. I really can't do anything with this view. So my base feature, and I intentionally dimension it this way, is going to be to draw this shape right here as my base feature. Okay, this shape right here to the center line. Then we're going to have to add this rounded nose on as a separate feature. We can't do that in this view. We can't sketch that. It'd be quite difficult. So let's start this one. I'm going to have to probably shrink it down a little bit and slide it over. I'll try to keep it on your screen this time. And hopefully you can see all that. I'm going to close this part, throw it away. We do a new part. This is metric again. All right, so front plane. This is top, front auxiliary view. Front view right here. So we're going to go front, start a sketch, and I'm going to do a line. I'm going to go roughly 150. I'm not going to quite get there, but that's all right. Come over. I'm going to go up at some angle. I need a tangent arc up here, so again, I'm going to come back and touch that point and then peel out. I'm going to go 180. However, when I attach, I'm probably not going to get a tangent line here. So let's click on that line. Right off the bat, no relations on that line. So we need to make these tangent, okay? So double check that. So I'm going to hold the control key down, pick that arc, and make those tangent. If I click on this line, we should see a tangent relation. Yep, we're good. All right, let's dimension this up. So hit that S key, dimension, pull that down, 150. This height is 40. We have a radius out here. It is 25. We have a 50-degree angle over here, so we'll pick this line, come out this way. That's 50. And you can see we have a problem here. Yeah. So I can move this, and we've got a bit of an issue here. So this line is locked down. It's black because of the angular dimension, but I think you can see that these lines aren't hanging out together. So I need to make these parallel. So let's do that. We're going to pick that line, hold the control key down, pick this line, and we're going to create a parallel relation right there. And then finally, I need this 100mm dimension for from the corner for the length of that line, actually. So I'm just going to pick that line. Oh, dimension tool. Pick that line and come out that way. This one's rather fussy, trying to get the right dimension in there. 100. Yeah, be careful. Make sure your dimension line is parallel to the piece of geometry. If you've got a horizontal or vertical, that's the wrong dimension. All right, this one's fully defined now. So I can extrude that. And it is 60mm thick, like so. All right, now we need to put this rounded nose on the end of the part here. And you're going to see a new command now to do this. So I'm going to sketch on this top surface. I'm going to start a sketch. Now, what I want to do here is a tangent arc coming out. However, I'm going to click on that tool and grab that corner. When I try to pull it, it says you have to pick an endpoint of a sketch segment. There is no sketched line there yet. So I need a sketch line across this edge. Well, I could draw a line from endpoint to endpoint. However, I want to show you a different tool. I'm going to pick that edge. I'm just going to click on it. You can see it's highlighted. And I'm going to click on Convert. We'll use the Convert tool throughout the semester, and it's kind of a confusing tool. I'm going to click on Convert, and I want you to watch that edge. It's going to turn black. It takes a minute to load the first time. It's going to give us a dialog box in just a moment. This is a really slow tool to load at first because it does a lot of really complex math. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK now. And what it's done is it took that edge of the solid model and converted it to a line, just like I drew it, a sketch line. Now, it probably would have been faster to just draw the line, but we'll get into situations this semester where we'll be doing lots of converts to convert geometry. It's really a handy tool in certain situations. All right, now if I click on Tangent Arc, I should be able to click this, and again, if I went this way, it would give me that, which is not what I want. But I should be able to peel out this way. Sometimes it gets very difficult. You have to try 2 or 3 times. Wrap it around. Should fully define for me. Now I'm going to extrude that. Feature, extrude. And my extrusion, I've already defined this height, right? We did that in the first sketch of 40mm. So I can't put a number in here. I'm going to say up to surface. Okay, again, up to surface. And I'm going to rotate up and pick the bottom of the part. We'll hit OK. All right. I think you should be able to draw the slot in here, this slot right here, and cut that down 25. And then with a piece of a center line. You should be able to draw a center line from the center of that slot over here. Draw that circle and cut it down 15 millimeters. I don't think that'll present a problem for you. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put the slot in for you. So let's click on that surface and start a sketch. I'm going to go normal 2. And let's type the S key and see if the slot tool is here. There it is. Now, I need to get that slot right on the same center point. I'm going to drag it down somewhere and then get that radius in. All right, if I've done it right, it's going to rotate around that center point. So I think right off the bat you can see we need a relation here. One of these lines has to be parallel to an edge. So I'm going to grab the center line and this line, make those parallel. Has a radius of 10 and a length of 75, so we can do a dimension now. We'll just pick that line. Whoops, and that's the wrong dimension. So let's try that again. 75. And then the radius dimension is 10. It's fully defined. When I cut this, slide this over just a little bit. When I cut this, we don't know the depth of the cut. We just know there's 10 millimeters of wall thickness. So that's going to be an offset from surface. Trying to get you to practice different style cuts. Extruded cut. Offset from surface. I'm going to put the 10 millimeters while I'm right there, and then I'm going to rotate this thing and pick that back surface. And if we look in the side, kind of straight in here, we can see the preview of that cut, and it's giving me that 10 millimeters there. So make sure it doesn't go through, and let's look at that. Yep, we're good to go. All right, so you can add these other features, and I think be all set there. Let's say goodbye to this one. Finally, last assignment for this week. This one's kind of got a tricky start to it. So let's take a look. It's this outside shape here. It's all created from arcs and one line here. So let's slide this over. I'm actually going to kind of slide it off the screen a little bit. But I just want you to see that shape. All right, so let's do a new part. I'm going to do this as fast as I can. Metric part. All right, I'm going to go to the front view. I'm going to start a sketch. And I'm going to start with some circles. So I'm just going to stick one over here, one over here, stick one up here, one up here, and one way up there. Beautiful. I didn't even pay attention to sizes on this one. All right, so this one has a radius of 30, so let's start right there. I'm going to put it in. Of course, I'm going to have to do a little math, 60. I'm immediately going to go to leader and switch to a radius. This one is going to be 45, which is 90 for a diameter. Right away, leader, switch it to a radius. And then the top has a radius of 35. That's going to be 70 for a diameter. Immediately, leader, switch it to a radius. All right, now we've got some relations to create. So I'm going to make these horizontal. Whoops, in the dimension tool. Make these centers horizontal. And make these equal. Then we'll make these horizontal. And make the circles equal. All right, so far so good. Now I'm going to make these tangent. I'm going to make these tangent. I'm going to make these tangent. And then I'm going to make these two tangent. Whoop, click out in space to clear. Make those tangent. All right. I need a line across here. Quadrant point to quadrant point. Now I'm going to create a midpoint relation between the origin and that line. So let's pick that line, pick the origin, and make midpoint. All right. I need a 96 millimeter dimension between centers here. So we're going to go back to the dimension tool, from that circle to that circle. 96 millimeters. And I have a height dimension of 85 from the line to the center of that arc. So we're going to go from the arc to the bottom line at 85. And that should squash this thing down much farther than I wanted, is it? No, we're good. All right. Looks kind of funny, doesn't it, compared to the shape, but let's trim it up now. So let's hit that S key, and we'll hit the trim tool, and we'll get rid of that, and that, and that, and that, and that. And there's that outside shape now that we see right there. All right. Let's see if I can get that in there. No, that's all right. We'll just leave it hanging out there. All right, so let's extrude that. Feature, extrude. This thing is, I'll slide this over for a second. It's 22 millimeters thick. Twenty-two. Check. All right, let's bring this back into the screen here. Now, we can see a second perimeter here. And if we look at our little isometric, we can see that that inside is all cut out, except for the back surface. So we've got to cut away this material back to here. It's 3 millimeters thick on the back side. And notice the only dimension we have for that inside perimeter is this 5 millimeter typical wall thickness dimension here. Well, we're finally, again, we talked about this in lecture last week. In AutoCAD, we said that offset's one of the most important commands you could ever use. In SolidWorks, we only use it for the most part in this very particular situation. So I'm going to click on this front face and start a sketch. Let's go normal too. And I'm going to highlight that face so it's lit up blue. And if I click on the offset tool, what it's going to do is it's going to find all the edges of this face and offset them. So again, select this face first and then click offset. Now it's created a perimeter, but it's going the wrong direction. So first of all, I'm going to put in my 5 millimeter dimension and then say reverse. And SolidWorks typically always offsets out. So you always have to flip it if you want to go in. And we're going to hit OK. And there you go. That sketch is done. Nothing else to do. It's fully defined. It just will follow this perimeter. If I made changes to that outside shape, it would change the offset shape. So we're going to cut that. Offset from surface. We're going to spin around, pick the back surface with a dimension of 3 millimeters is what I told you, like so. There's that shape. All right, I'm going to pull this back in now, and I'm not going to draw anything else, I don't think, here. I'm going to just talk about this a little bit. So let's expand this in size a bit so we can see what's happening here. All right. So probably the next feature you want to create, you want to sketch on this face and draw this shape. These arcs or circles is how you'll start them. These circles that you'll create are on the same centers as the outside arcs, so they're going to be concentric with lines attached. You can cut that through all. Then down here on the bottom, you could draw these 4 circles, sketch them on this surface. And if we look in the side view here, they are 5 millimeters from the top. So you're going to have to do an offset from the top surface here of 5 millimeters. And then finally, this shape right here is 2 arcs at an 18 and 22 millimeter radius from the same center point. And there are 2 lines here. And you'll notice that it's extruded up, offset from surface 4 millimeters. I want you to be very careful. When you draw this line in, and you draw this line in, SolidWorks will probably give you a witness line when you do the second line. If you follow that witness line, it's going to create a perpendicular relationship, which is bad because I've given you a 45 and 90 degree angle here. If you allow it to create the perpendicular relation, then you won't let you put that 90 degree dimension in. It's going to overdefine it. So draw the first line. When you draw the second line, make sure you skew it a bit so that it's not following that yellow witness line. And then let the dimension fix it. One other thing you may have to do here, and I'm going to zoom up on this a little bit more. Let's get real close here. One thing you may have to do to get this fully defined is this line segment right here. Create a relation between this line segment and that center point. And it'll be a coincident relation, which means this line will be pointing right at that center point. So both of these lines are probably going to require a coincident relationship with the center point here to force them to line up with that center point. Even though when you draw them, you're going to start here and go out. Once you trim it, it's not attached, so we need to create that relation. So try that and then extrude it up. All right. So there you have it, week 2, and give this a try. And as always, enjoy.